Darla, don't you dare. Don't do it.
Why are you like this?
Darla, no. Just because I moved a bookshelf, we don't need to be all wild. Don't even think about it, Darla. Darla! Okay, you're going to the bedroom.
This is going really well.
Whenever you're around, whenever we get down.
I've moved my bookshelf out into the main area. It doesn't work very well from a feng shui perspective, but I mean, I want it there, so yeah. So, hello, welcome, how's it going? We are in the midst of a holiday weekend here in the US. So I spent all day yesterday reading books and listening to music and doing absolutely nothing productive. And yeah, it was pretty great. It was pretty great. So, but now here we are. It's Saturday morning and I'm ready to dive back into some Heartstopper videos. So that's what we're going to do. So today we're going to be asking the very important Heartstopper related question: what are Nick Nelson's best moments in season 2? And of course the answer is all of them. They are all the best, but today we're going to narrow them down to some of the very, very best, because otherwise this video would just be me playing the entirety of Heartstopper season 2 and pointing at Nick and going, yes, this, all of this. So, before we get into the video though, I wanted to share that my young adult novel about queer teens saving the world, Guardians, is 50% off right now over at the 9 Star Press website until November 27th. So if you enjoy stories with snarky banter and enemies to lovers, now's your chance to get it for a really low price. So, yes. Darla, don't you dare. Don't do it. Darla causing chaos as usual. Hold on. So Benny at this time of day goes into yawn closet and likes to sleep there, and Darla likes to go into that closet and attack him because she is personally affronted by anyone other than herself being comfortable anywhere at any time. So our first best Nick moment comes to us from episode 1. So Nick has spent this entire episode nervously trying to figure out how to come out to the people in his life. At the end of the episode, he's finally sort of managed to come out to Imogen. Now, when Nick and Charlie say goodbye at the front door of one of their houses, their usual pattern is to exchange some significant glances and maybe some crackling finger touches, but nothing more overt in case someone sees. And at first, Nick falls into this same pattern. We kind of see him hesitating and thinking about maybe kissing Charlie, but in the end he decides not to, and Charlie sort of smiles like he understands, but I'm sure he's a little disappointed even through his patience and understanding. But then we have this beautiful moment when Nick just stops halfway down the walk. And maybe he's thinking about how everyone who's here right now knows about him and Charlie and how good that feels. And he just has this wonderful, fuck it, I might have just hit the mic. He's this wonderful, fuck it, I'm gonna kiss my boyfriend moment. Darla, do not. Yeah. So, okay, anyway, so this kiss. It is not like a nervous little peck or a chaste brushing of lips. It is a full-on kiss. Darla, do not go in there. Sweetheart, come here. Come here. Do you understand that you are interrupting my video? Do you understand that you are behaving abhorrently? Look at the people. What do you have to say? Go find something to do that does not involve harassing your brother. Where was I? Okay, so this kiss. This kiss is like, it is a kiss. It is a full-on kiss. And it goes on for long enough that Tao feels the need to interrupt it. Because he's Tao. And Nick looks a little embarrassed, but is clearly just thrilled that he's been able to take this step. Why are you like this? Why are you like this? So this moment is really the springboard for so much else that happens in this season. We see Nick inching closer and closer to feeling comfortable with coming out, and more than that, we see him reaching these kind of fuck it moments again and again, where he realizes that the benefits of being out with Charlie just so deeply outweigh his fear at how people might react. And speaking of that, let's move on to our next Best Nick moment, which takes place on top of the Eiffel Tower. So at this point in the story, Nick and Charlie have decided,
Do not do it. Darla, no. What is going on? What is the problem? Just because I moved a bookshelf, we don't need to be all wild.
So, at this point in the story, Nick and Charlie, they've decided to put Nick's coming out on hold for a while, mainly because Nick has been so stressed about it that he literally made himself sick and pushed himself into an anxiety attack at the bonfire party. So now that the pressure's off a little bit, Nick is able to really look at things objectively and think about what he wants regarding his coming out. And that brings us to this moment.
Don't even think about it, Darla.
That brings us to this beautiful moment on top of the Eiffel Tower.
Darla! Okay, you're going in the bedroom.
I've had to put Darla in the bedroom with the door closed because otherwise she's going to keep interrupting, which I don't mind the interruptions, but eventually she's going to get past me and go attack Benny, and he's an old man. He needs his sleep, so we're gonna. Where was I? The pressure to come out has been reduced a little bit for Nick, and he's able to look at things and think about what he wants and really understand how he feels. So that brings us to this moment on top of the Eiffel Tower. Nick and Charlie are standing together, taking in this beautiful view, and one of Harry's asshat friends shouts up,
Hey Nick, is that hickey from you then?
You know, because Nick is a guy who's standing near Charlie, and everyone knows that standing near a gay person means you two are gay. That's just science. So Charlie immediately snaps around to look at Nick, understandably concerned, maybe thinking that Nick is going to go into a panic again, but Nick doesn't. He just stares this dude down and says,
What if it was? You jealous?
First of all, epic comeback. You know, he's not denying it, he's not pushing Charlie away or getting flustered or upset. He's just calmly and confidently being like, yeah, so what? And the brilliant thing about this comeback is that Nick has not lied or in any way denied that he was the one who gave Charlie the hickey. But he's also managed to draw suspicion away from himself just by being so calm and confident and unbothered by the accusation. So, you know, Charlie sees this and is really pleasantly surprised, but it still doesn't stop him from being worried about where things might go from here.
Maybe we shouldn't be hanging out right now. More people might think it was you who, you know.
He suggests that maybe they shouldn't be hanging out together because people might start to suspect Nick. And this, I think, is a really important moment for Nick, because instead of agreeing or pulling away, he leans closer and fixes Charlie with this smug, flirty smile and says,
You do know it was me, right?
and I love that. I love that so much. I love the confidence. I love the flirtiness. I love that they're doing it on top of the Eiffel Tower when eyes could still be on them and someone has just accused Nick of being with Charlie, and instead of pushing away or getting freaked out or anything like that, Nick leans in. In general, I think the Paris trip really just makes it hit home for Nick regarding how much he really does want to be out. And this is another wonderful moment on that journey. Our next best Nick moment is an obvious but important one, and that is when Nick comes out to everyone at Tara's birthday party. Before this scene, we've seen Nick taking, step after step on the road to being ready to be out. So, hiding his relationship with Charlie is becoming really hard for him, and he's had all these little tastes of what being out could be like. Kissing Charlie at the front door in front of their friends, and holding Charlie's hand as they walk through the streets of Paris, even their beach date back in episode 8 of season 1. So after getting all these glimpses of what out life with Charlie could be, and experiencing the flip side of that, the negatives of not being out where they can't even sit together on the bus, Nick is really realizing that while he might be afraid of coming out, it might just be worth it for everything that he would gain. And so here we are at Tara's birthday party playing Truth or Dare. Now Charlie has been dared to kiss Ben, which is awful on so many levels. And even though Ben storms out of the room before it can happen and Charlie flat out refuses,
No way.
I'm sure Nick is sitting there thinking about how this wouldn't even be an issue if everyone knew he and Charlie were together.
Can I do a truth instead?
And then when Charlie asks for a truth instead, this kid asks him,
Who gave you the hickey?
so there's an instant outcry.
What? Can we just move on from this?
People arguing on both sides. Nick and Charlie's friends speaking in favor of not outing someone for the sake of a game. And while all this is going on, you can see the wheels turning in Nick's head. He spent all this time being so afraid of this moment and, hyping it up in his head. But he's ready by this point. Like, he's had time to think about it and experience what being out with Charlie could really be like. And, this is definitely not the time he would have chosen to come out if it had been up to him, but if he does it now, he can spare Charlie this embarrassment and awkwardness, and because right now everyone is focused on Charlie. They're arguing about something related to him. We know he doesn't like being the focus of attention, and so I think Nick weighs all of this and is like, yeah, you know what, let's just do it. So he does it.
I know who it was.
And as soon as Nick says, I know who it was, you have Charlie looking at him like, are you sure? Are you really, really, really sure? But Nick is, and he takes Charlie's hand and just calmly and quietly comes out to this room full of people.
Me. We're dating.
Clearly what pushes him that final step is Charlie. He does this for Charlie, but also for himself. So Nick has just come out to a room full of people, and it's fine. There are a few ignorant comments.
I never would have guessed Nick was gay.
Yeah. I'm bi, actually.
But nothing mean or openly homophobic. Probably not surprising since this is a party for Tara thrown by Darcy. And it's another bit of reassurance for Nick that, yeah, coming out is worth it for him. And while it's a really scary thing to do, it's doable. He can do it, and he has done it. And speaking of that, our next best Nick moment happens in episode 7, and it is the dinner scene. So Nick has come out to his mom, his brother, Charlie's friends, who are now his friends, Imogen, and a room full of random people, and it's gotten a little less scary every time he does it. But telling his dad is especially scary because, I don't think he's sure how his dad is going to react. And, David doesn't help things in episode 2 by being like, oh, wait till dad finds out and all that. So I doubt that Nick and his dad have ever talked about anything queer related before now, especially since Nick was so young when his parents divorced. And, now their every conversation, him and his dad, is just rugby and awkward questions about girls. But Nick is determined to tell his dad, and that brings us to dinner with the Springs. So it starts out, pleasantly enough.
Do you visit often, Stefan?
As much as I can.
My job, it keeps me very busy.
Nick's dad is pretending to be a good father, and Sarah and Tori are rolling their eyes a lot. And then David goes on the offensive.
Dad, has Nick told you how he met Charlie?
So David claims that he's just trying to help, but, clearly he's just trying to, number one, stir shit, because that's what he does, and number two, he's trying to elevate himself to kind of favored son status with his dad. And he's well on the road to just outing Nick when Tori's nails step in.
Don't you dare.
And Nick has one of his best fuck it moments of the season.
Sorry, this is ridiculous. Dad, Charlie's my boyfriend. Surprise. I'm bi, he's gay, and I was actually really stressed out about how I was going to tell you. But you know what? I don't care what you think about it anymore. Because you don't care to even see us more than 2 times a year. So if you don't care, then I don't care either.
So I love this moment. I love everything Nick says. I love the calm and the maturity he says it with, even though it's clearly affecting him deeply emotionally. But more than anything, I love that Nick is finally calling out his dad and his brother on their bullshit.
And I don't know why you're acting like you are 10 years old, but your bullying just doesn't affect me anymore because, quite simply, I do not care. I like who I am. I like my life. Maybe you should stay with Dad next time.
And as Sarah says later, Nick's dad, in particular, really needed to hear it. And so did David, though I'm pretty sure the dad was more affected by it than David was. And after doing this thing that was scaring him so much, after facing down, coming out to his dad, and not only coming out of it unscathed, but happy and victorious, and with something kind of like acceptance from his dad, Nick is no longer scared about coming out on a grander scale. And that leads to his Instagram official coming out at the beginning of episode 8, which he doesn't do for any other reason than because he's ready and he wants to. And that's a beautiful thing. And a sad one because, of course, Kit was not afforded the same courtesy. But I'm glad at least Nick gets that. So before we go into our final best Nick Nelson moment from season 2, I also want to give an honorable mention to Nick's discussion with Charlie at the Louvre about Charlie's eating disorder.
I've noticed you don't really eat a lot.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Hey, no. You have nothing to be sorry about. I want to understand.
So Nick approaches the subject gently and respectfully, and he gives Charlie the space and safety he needs in that moment to talk about it. He doesn't lecture Charlie, he doesn't yell at him or do anything except just be there for him. And that's exactly what Charlie needs in that moment. Now, on to our final best Nick Nelson moment from season 2, which is, of course, the final scene of episode 8. So I just talked about this scene in my reaction video for episode 8, but I could not leave it off this list. So throughout this entire season, Nick has been slowly realizing all that's been going on with Charlie, finding out, the depths of the bullying he experienced and the fact that he hasn't talked to anyone, not even his best friends, about all of that, and how the trauma he's experienced has led to some really unhealthy coping mechanisms like his eating disorder. So I think Nick was hoping after their conversation in Paris and, promising to tell each other things, that Charlie would be, on the road to getting better. He wouldn't still be struggling so much. Especially now, since they're fully out as a couple and that final piece of stress has been removed.
I don't have to hide my amazing boyfriend anymore. I'm not getting bullied. Everything's perfect.
But Nick can still see that Charlie is not okay. It's not going to be that simple. Charlie isn't okay just because he says he is. So Nick takes this moment when they're alone and they're safe in his bedroom after a wonderful prom party with his friends to give Charlie a safe space to talk about things that he's never talked about with anyone before.
You never told me about the bullying.
We didn't need to talk about that. Everything's fine now.
Is everything fine?
So just like the scene in the Louvre, Nick comes at this with just the right tone. He's not accusing, he's not pushing, but he's also not letting Charlie run away. Because, he knows this is something that Charlie needs to confront in order to move on.
Charlie, we said we'd tell each other things. After you told me about your eating thing.
But, Nick is making sure that Charlie knows that they're confronting it together. He's not alone. And that's probably a big part of why Charlie is finally able to talk about it. Nick holds his hand, he listens to him, he holds him, he cries for him. And even though what Charlie tells him scares Nick way more than anything so far, even more than seeing Charlie pass out at the Louvre, Nick keeps his composure and just quietly begs Charlie to tell him when he's feeling bad.
Can you promise to tell me if it ever gets that bad again? Can you just please promise me?
And just this is the perfect reaction. Again, he's not yelling at Charlie, he's not acting like Charlie has done something wrong or shameful. He's not making him promise not to self-harm again. He's saying, tell me and we can figure this out together. And I think this helps Charlie realize that finally he is really not alone in this. And, this thing that he's hidden from everyone in his life, it hasn't scared Nick away. It scared him, yeah, but he's still there and he's not going anywhere. And that means so much to Charlie. And while it does leave Nick feeling very worried and scared and not sure how to deal with all of it, it's something that needed to happen. And it's only because of Nick's gentleness and love and understanding that it was able to play out in such a healing way for Charlie. And this concludes my best Nick Nelson moments from Season 2 of Heartstopper. So if your favorites were not on the list, let me know in the comments. So what do you think are Nick's best moments this season? And what moments are you looking forward to in Season 3? Tell me all. Tell me everything. Well, that's going to do it for today. Thank you, as always, to our patrons who are amazing and wonderful and fantastic and awesome and many other words that mean the same thing. And a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, Kent Smither, and Kim Engel. And Kim, let me know if I'm pronouncing your name right, and if I'm not, please tell me the correct pronunciation, and I will do better next time. Alright, well, have a wonderful rest of your day, or night, or whatever time of day it may happen to be, and I'll see you next time. Bye.